You know
But
what I
why
mean?
is
And that.
everyone, bro? I went to Sniper's chat yesterday. Everyone's onto you, Kel.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not like
yeah.
not Sniper on that, but like all the people.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
bro,
no, no, no.
people are super chatting to this Kel. Like it's proper on.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
man, I'm proper on him, bro. It's actually wild.
Yeah. So yesterday, right? I went on I was in the garden and helping out the missus and that, right? And I was listening to what's his name, 42 Dave showing it. So I listened to, and he was talking about Sharia and all this. So I thought to myself, you know what? Let me jump on there and that, because I'm thinking to myself, right? Is Dave and the Europeans afraid of the Moors bringing the Sharia again? Do you understand? Because you know that Europe was civilized by the Africans who brought the Islam, and also with the Israel, etc. and that. So when I was talking, and you had like loot base, and you had this what's her name now? There was another lady, Irish lady on there as well. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, she's a savage. The one that.
So we were
talking.
so we were talking and that, and yeah. So I asked him the question, and what was that?
Where was this on Luke's channel?
Nah, not on Luke's, on Dave's. It's on Dave's channel. Yeah. So
on 42 Chin Dave.
On 42, yeah. Go on.
Man tried back the age of Aisha talking all that. I was like, all right, listen, I'm out.
Who?
Oh yeah. So now I'm gonna keep it 100. So we were all talking, and we were talking about the what was it, the Sharia and that, and then he's talking about the age of Aisha. So I said to him, I says him back then, that's what it was. You cannot bring now into there and that, because obviously different societies were doing that. Then he's gone, but it's the Prophet Muhammad. So I said to him, but that's what they believe in. Then decided to get all wild and all. Then he's asking all these personal questions and rare this that. And then like he was saying that so I said to him, and I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm saying right back then that the women were more developed. So 6, 7, 9, according to the religion of Islam and the physicality, is equivalent to a 20-year-old. Do you understand what I'm saying in that? But now you can't do all that now. You don't need to be marrying those ages.
Is that what you said to him? Oh my god.
Yeah, that's, you know what I mean? Because I'm just keeping it 100. I'm not gonna cut. I'm just gonna keep it 100. It was a discussion about that, right? Then my man now, what's his name now? What's his name now? Luke Base. So Luke Base now, right? He's just gone on one. You know, he gets all emotional, etc. So we were talking, and he's asking me all these weird things, man. So then I said to Dave, because you know what, Dave, right? Check this out. You do understand that the Christianity verses implemented and promoted to enslave black people and to do certain things. But I said to him, right, I'm going to be just though, because I'm going to say that it's not the religion. I'm going to say that it was the temperaments that brought the ideology into it. He became silent because he knows on that. You see what I'm saying? And then then they were going into personals and all these rubbish there. So, you know what I mean? Because I, refuted, stood up tall and etc. and that, decided to come hard on me and that pause. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. I would have tried to defend that one there still. I would just say, it's wrong then and it's wrong now. You hear me? I moved on because anytime you try to defend that, them things there, things that get sneaky upon your dog. You hear me? Yeah. There's really no defense for that age thing, innit? Like, if that's true, you just know about whatever you do.
You know what I'm saying?
God, mad. Back it up.
Yes, sir.
I thought, you know what? Yeah, I thought you was gonna fucking do it. Meh. I know it hurts.
Yo, Felch, what did that? All right, there's two things we need to discuss. What I just heard, right? So I logged into the chat, and it felt like Kale was soft defending the child thing, and then And then,
Oh, yeah,
Jimbo,
so,
I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. I was fixing to send an ambulance to your crib, bro.
yeah, nah. Just about, I just about
Yo,
survived it.
To
yo.
the Saudi
So, Vels, obviously I've missed some shit.
Saudi
What,
embassy,
what?
fam.
Huh?
To the Saudi embassy, innit?
Oh, man said Kale Cullis. Nah, they done him.
So what did I miss? What's got Kale on this defense league thing?
It's the
Yeah, man.
ice
I'm back.
people, brother.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, Kale,
Son, man.
I think I heard you just say back in
Some
the
man.
day, 6-year-olds or 30-year-olds. That's what it sounded like. But I could be wrong, innit? Because it's early and I'm
Yeah.
tired. But Kale, please tell me that's not what you're kind of saying. That for some reason, in that specific time, in that specific region, the babies were adults. Don't say that. Don't don't make excuses for that. And just tell me I'm wrong. Please. Please, Kale.
Cool. Cool.
Just tell me I'm
Cool.
wrong, man. Because this is what I mean. Look, I'm just gonna go all the way in.
Cool.
Religion damages the mind. When you have to cape for a religion, specifically, it always seems to be the Abrahamics. It just turns you into a brainless fucking zombie, where you'll say things like 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds back then were the equivalent of a fucking 8.
All right. So there was a discussion, and we had a discussion, right? And I made it perfectly clear that back then, those are the things that they believed in. Those are the things they were practicing. But now, it wouldn't be befitting to do those things now. So it was a discussion about that. I'm not afraid, brother. I want you to pay attention to this. Me, Kale man, not afraid to discuss about these things. You understand what I'm saying in that? Not afraid to speak the truth on it. Not afraid to give certain exegesis on it. I'm not afraid of all them things, brother. That's gonna keep it 100. It was a discussion specifically about that. Now, if people want to have their own ideas and cause certain things and say, no, you mean this, first of all, brother, I'm not going to fall into the narrative. Do you understand what I'm saying in that, right? Back then was then, now is different. We were speaking about that, and people keep misconflating and putting it all together as though you can do these things right now in the UK, in Europe, where they're going to prohibit it. And that's what the
No,
the
but
discussion was
Kale,
about.
I'm
Yeah.
confused. The way you're using your language, it's not actually clearing anything up for me. Are you saying that back in the day, 6-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 were
Mm,
in that specific region in Arabia for that
mm.
specific time in history were growing up so fast, the babies were the equivalents of 18-year-olds?
I'm saying that those ages that they were more physical. Do you understand? So their bodies will be
No, I
equivalent
actually
as a
don't
20-year
understand,
old.
Kale. I
Yeah.
don't get what you're saying. So listen to me carefully.
Mm,
Nowhere else around the world this was happening, but you're saying, and you agree with, that the
hmm
baby in that specific, like 80-mile region in Arabia, in that
hmm
specific time in history, the
hmm
babies were in fact capable of or growing up to be adults whilst they're still children, adolescents, developing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they weren't classed as babies back then, and it weren't just
No, it doesn't matter
Arabia
what
that they
they
were
were classed
practicing
as.
it.
I'm just saying, you're saying the kids were adults, and you, in your rational mind, you can stand on.
No, I'm saying that that is what it was back then. That's the reality of it. There's nothing we can do about it. You see what I'm
No,
saying?
it's
In that
not
when
about doing anything about it. I'm
okay,
thinking,
cool.
do you
Yeah,
believe that? Is what I'm trying to get at. Do you believe that
of course,
actually happened? I mean,
of course, I believe that back then in Arabia, in Europe, in Asia, that they were marrying women of those ages. That was the norm back then. There's too much document proof on it. That was the practice back then. Do
no,
you
I'm
understand?
not suggesting. I'm not saying
Even in
child. No,
places on the continent, they
remove
were
the
doing that.
goalpost. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about child brides. We know that goes on. That goes on today, bro, in some of the more
Okay.
fucking regions around the globe. I'm
Right.
asking if you specifically, Kale, you believe that for some reason there was some sort of abracadabra magic biology in that specific time frame, in that specific region in Arabia, where kids could just magically become adults for some sort of arbitrary reason. That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, I
Do you
believe
believe?
that back
Do you
then.
believe that the
I
biology was
believe
magic
back
back
then.
then?
I
Mm.
believe back then that a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, etc., and that right, that they were developed and their bodies were the equivalent of a 20-year-old, and they were practicing back then. There's too much evidence and proof that that is what the practice was back then. Do you
No, no,
understand?
I'm
I've
not
read.
saying no, no, dude. I'm not interested in what the practice was back then. I'm
Okay.
asking you, Kale, specifically, do you believe that the biology was magic in that specific time frame, in that specific period and geographical location? Do you believe the
Yeah,
biology was magic?
I don't believe in magic. What I do believe in that there were practices back then
Mm.
that they were marrying those ages, and the young women, what was equivalent back then, that they had the physicality, they were spiritually inclined, and they were intellectually sane to participate in the things. That's the criteria for
You're
those
saying
particular
the
times.
3s and the 4s and the 5 and the
Yeah,
6 and
back
7,
then.
8,
Yeah,
9,
back
10
then.
year olds were
Yeah,
sane
back
and
then.
honest. Wow. All right. Thank you. All
Yeah,
right. Disco Barney's, I'm
back
out.
then.
I can't do this.
Yeah, back
I
then.
can't do this.
Back then, most definitely, yeah. And I stand on it. That is what the practice was back then. Yeah, back then it was. You know what I mean? We have to stop getting, you know what I mean, weird towards information. When we bring the knowledge and the information of certain times, right? We have to share it and we have to dispute it so people get a good understanding. Do you understand? There's a lot of things before time. That's what was happening. So for me personally, a man who has researched and learned certain things, etc., and that, I'm going to give the knowledge, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? I says it, and I'm going to say it again. Those practices back then, that is what they were doing. Do you understand? They were doing those practices. You understand? They were doing it in Europe as well. I said Richard III married Isabella at the age of 6. In the Asian culture back then, they were doing marriages from 1 to 3 to 8 and getting married. That was the practices back then. Do you understand? So we're not gonna go now and say and tell ourselves, oh, you know what? Those times were wrong, and we're gonna put now into that. That was back then. Now, do I agree that you can't be marrying a 6-year-old in these eras? No, you can't be doing all that. You don't. First of all, it's not those times where the physicality is of that equivalent to a 20-year-old now. So you definitely can't be doing that now. But back then they were doing that. You know what I mean? And I stand tall on that. You know what I mean? We can bring proof and evidence, right? When it comes to that region, that is what they were doing. You know what I mean? And
Wait,
that is what they were
what's
doing.
that? Talk to me,
With the
son.
what?
What's that? I don't know what's
Nah,
like. What's
yeah, people,
Bless
they're
up,
getting
bless up,
sensitive.
bless up, bless up, bless up, bless
How
up.
you doing, son
I
sister?
do
You're right, yeah?
Bit early in the morning for this malarkey, mate.
Why, sir? The people, them.
Hmm?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
but you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, yeah.
well, here's the thing in it, right? Because we're here to bring the proof according to that society. So, for example, Aisha, the covenant of the marriage was conducted when she was 6, but actually, commenced when, the age of 9. Do you understand? And the criteria of that in Arabia back then, right, that you have to be physicality mature, right, to carry out that particular marriage. You see what I'm saying in that, right? And we know that the enemies of the Prophet Muhammad, they didn't use these things against him, right? Rather, they used things like he was a magician, a madman, and etc. etc. They didn't use these things against him, right? There's also another thing where, like, there was another man that wanted to marry her, right? And her parents did not want this man to marry her because he wasn't embracing the religion of Islam. So I'm saying, based upon that society, based upon those criteria, it was permissible to practice those things. The problem is the knife for what we want to do in that, right? Because of subjective feelings, we want to go, we want to be sorry, back to the future. You see what I'm saying? We want to go on the time machine with our mindset now and say, oh, this is wrong, blah, 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 blah. Get sensitive, right? And then you want to go against those who are bringing the knowledge on all they're doing is explaining back then and this now. And that's what happened on the show with Dave's show. Do you understand?
No,
Because
I
at the end
understand
of
what you're
yeah,
saying in that
yeah,
regard. I think
right.
the only problem, and I would actually agree, is the problem whereby obviously it's a prophet, you know, who's supposed to be the best of all time, this, that, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, that's definitely problematic. I think for a normal person, then that's okay, innit? They can claim ignorance, this, that, and the other. But if you're a direct, I don't know, communicator, whatever the right is with the Most High, then even myself, I would expect that the Most High would say, "No, Bedri," you know what I mean? Like them people there, they meant to do that, but not you. I have to be honest with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but isn't so? For example, if we're dealing with that society and that, right, and we're talking about the Most High, what I'm getting is that the Most High didn't have an issue with that particular practices in that region. Do you understand what I'm saying? In that, so if the Most High didn't have an issue with that
Wait.
particular practices, yeah, go on.
Is that what you're asserting? Are you
Due to the
asserting that the Most High? I
I'm
know
a,
what
I'm a,
I know. Yeah,
right.
go on.
I'm asserting to the evidence based upon that society as I've come up with. Do you understand? As I said to you already, in that there was a man who wanted to
But
marry
there is no evidence
Aisha.
in real life, though, that Muhammad spoke to God, though, is there? There ain't
Well,
no evidence.
well,
There's no
the thing
evidence
is
of that.
that's to do with belief, isn't it? You either believe or you
Well,
don't.
exactly.
But what I'm
Exactly. But I
saying
mean,
is, below, go
yeah.
on, below. Yeah.
No, go on, man. I'm just saying there's no evidence of that in it, but go on still.
What I'm saying is that when we're dealing with knowledge, as you know, you have to cover the ins and outs of why there are claims, why that happened, and how do people feel about it, right? And all we do is bring the exegesis of certain particular texts. I'm saying in that society, right, that the creator didn't have an issue with that due to the hadith, what was sent down in regards to a man wanted to marry and that. And because he
Right, so
wasn't
you
of
are
the Islamic faith, yeah.
Okay, Kale. So you're definitely asserting that you yourself believe that the Most High didn't have no problem with it at that time.
Based on the evidence, from what I've read, he didn't have an issue with it. He didn't have an issue with it at all. Based upon the evidence, what I've read, and based upon the political science of why these enemies didn't use it against him. Yeah, go on.
Okay, so So what is the evidence that you're using to suggest that the Most High didn't have a problem with it at that time? Go on.
Because based upon the hadith of the one, there was a man, Jubair, that wanted to marry Aisha, right? But because he was a pagan, her father Abu Bakr and mother didn't approve of it, and then allowed the Prophet Muhammad to marry. And that's a clean hadith. That is the practice, and that was allowed. And then when we're dealing with how they dealt with,
but 1 second though, because obviously I'm just learning. But who wrote the hadith?
So the hadith is what they class as Islam. Is the two revelation. So you've got the one with the Quran, and you got the one which the Prophet Muhammad said, and they kind of writ it down, what he said, how to deal with, basically an instruction manual, how to live your life, which backs up with the Quran. Do you understand? So that is
So it
the
was
hadith.
actually Muhammad then that sort of stipulated that it was okay then, as it were, or it's passable, is what I'm understanding.
In regards to that narration, that narration there.
Yeah, in terms of it being permissible for the the 6 year or blah 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 blah. Because I know you said you're saying that at the time you're saying that God allowed it because of the evidence that you just said, A, B, and C.
Yeah.
I'm saying well, as far as I'm concerned, obviously, Muhammad writ that himself. Yeah, because I'm saying, let me be very clear. In fact, I'm a goddess up in this bitch, so I am the most high representation here on earth, so we get that straight, so we're not dealing with no atheists, you get it?
Of course.
But there's no way that I believe that my God, of which I am, you get it, is gonna sanctify such a thing, bro. No way.
Okay.
And the problem that you have is
Mm.
that because obviously, in terms of from a religious perspective, the mere fact that it said that it's from all time,
Right.
yeah, that's a bit problematic. Well, it's quite problematic, to be honest.
Mhm.
And because Islam doesn't even deal with innovation or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which is, in a way, it's not respect it, but obviously that's why people stay 10 toes down regarding this situation. Obviously, I understand you're saying like then is then and now is now. But
Mhm.
like I said, I think the problem that you're gonna have, or the problem that I have, then let me be more thinking
Yeah.
is the fact that it was supposed to be for all time and that he was a prophet. I mean, if you just look, because I heard you compare it to a king or this and that, but they're
Yeah.
just normal people. Yeah, that's calm.
Right.
I mean, they're normal people
Mhm.
who ain't. It could be argued ain't supposed to know better. But if you got a prophet who's prophesizing to people, he's
Right.
supposed to know better. You get me? Because he's gonna know. God's gonna know. Because remember, as far as I'm
Mm.
aware, the religion says that everything's done written in a book anyway, right?
Right.
So God would have known. Said, "Boy, in time to come, this is gonna be problematic."
Mm.
So I'm saying, I mean, I've got to walk time would have patterned this up a little bit better. Still, I've got
But
to be real.
isn't that our subjective feelings, how we view things that we don't really want to accept? Would you say that?
That could definitely be argued. Do you know what I mean? In terms of one's subjective feelings. But you know, my thing is that the creator made us, isn't it? The creator he made us. So he's
Right.
gonna know because I don't believe it's a singular person. Obviously, there's a woman up in that bitch.
Mhm.
They would know that a child having a child is very problematic for varying reasons.
Right.
Do you understand
Here's
me?
the thing, Sister Naifa. Back then, because we're dealing with biblical, right? They were marrying very young, you know, very, 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 very young. You see what I'm saying? And that, like Ishmael and Isaac, they married their wives when they were like 12, etc. Do you understand? And even before that, the people them they were married very young because back then the physicality was very different back then. So that's why when we're speaking about these things, right? I understand
When you say
hearing
the
us.
physicality, what do you mean by
Yeah.
that? Sorry. When you say the
So
physicality,
so the physicality of like so back then with the evidence, if you were like 6 and 7,
yeah,
for a female,
yeah.
you was like a grown woman. You know, you weren't pupescent. You were more kind of developed. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is
Right.
so.
So when you say
Yeah,
developed, are we talking about
yeah.
mentally? Are we talking about physically, or when spiritually? What do you mean developed? Sorry.
All that encompasses, according to the religion of Islam, to carry out that marriage back then, especially with Aisha, you have to be spiritually, mentally, and physically inclined to be able to be in that, right? So that's how. So if none of those, for example, if you're not spiritual understanding, then the marriage can't go ahead. What I'm
Okay, so
saying,
teach us something.
physically,
1
yeah,
second. All right then. So I know
yeah,
you've had daughters, yeah. So at 6,
okay.
how would you be able to ascertain that your daughter is spiritually aware? How? What measurements would you use to ascertain that? Because when my
So
son was 6, he
yeah,
was doing
mm,
the most. I've got 6.
mhm.
You know what I mean? I know 6-year-old girls. They're doing the most in terms of being 6. So yeah, how would you
Yeah.
ascertain that sort of spiritual vibrations? Interesting still.
So for me, if you're on about with my daughters, etc., and that, right?
Well, no, because we're talking about back in the
Yeah,
day. Yeah. So you're
yeah,
saying back in the day, there's
yeah,
evidence to suggest that at 6 they were physically,
uh,
mentally, and I think you said
yeah,
what was the one? Physically,
yeah.
mentally, and I can't remember that one. Yeah. So, for example,
So
what would
yeah.
be a measurement to assess their spiritual awareness, as it were?
Okay, so back then, understanding the monotheism of the creator. Do you understand?
Okay. Okay.
Understanding the what needs to be carried out to worship, etc. Right? So if at that time they had that kind of understanding, right, then they were spiritually educated, spiritually inclined. Then
Okay, so at
obviously
6 years old,
mentally,
I was
yeah.
definitely going to Sunday school, for example. So I was definitely learning about, I don't know, the good gospel, probably fucking, I don't know, we were probably being taught the Beatitudes, how to
Salute both of you.
memorize.
Yeah, big up some brother. Yeah, we all were, you know what I mean? I used to go Sunday school, I ain't gonna lie. Yeah. So, but yeah,
Okay, so all right
yeah.
then. So okay then.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm just trying to work with it in practical terms. So okay, maybe at 6 I can
Right. Mm-hmm.
maybe I can be thinking what be the 12 commandments or something, because that's probably a little bit easier to be actually.
Right.
All right then. So that's the physical bit. I mean the spiritual bit. What about the physical bit?
So as I said, that the physicality would be how mature the back then the young woman's body would be. So if it's can bear children, like the hips have widened and etc., and that the growth basically, and that the pubescent beyond that, that would be classed as you're ready to get married.
Is it okay if
So
I interject?
you're saying that there was a time in the history where they thought, and this is God Himself included, that a
No, no, no.
6-year-old.
Can I interject on that one?
1 second, Schiffer. 1 second. I'm gonna let
That's
you
why I
go.
wanted to interject, because I knew it was going to get there, and that's not what it is. This is a cultural practice. This ain't in the Quran. The thing that needs to be pointed out is if I go into a Quran, I'm not going to find no 6-year-old business, nothing. It's when I get into certain people's cultures, and I believe that this is one of my because I don't consider myself religious for this reason. I have a major issue with religious people amalgamating their culture with what they're calling spirituality. Now, if they kept their culture out of it and left all their nastiness out of it, then I'd be fine with religion. But because they keep mixing up their nastiness and their personal, regions, cultures with the religion, this is why we've got these kind of arguments circulating. And then it's like, when we start talking about 6-year-olds and, underage things, we're going to have to attribute that to Arabs more than we attribute it to Islam. Do you see it? We're going to have to attribute it to certain particular people of certain particular regions. Now, unfortunately, what I notice is you get a lot of people, even black people, defending it. Now, I think that's partly to do with the confusion, partly to do with not wanting to offend people, partly to do with fear, and partly to do with the fact that you just don't get it, or they're just not reading their Quran to know that none of these things ain't in there, and Hadith ain't got nothing to do with Quran. This is all dirty Arab culture that they've slipped in through the side door.
So in this particular situation, because that was what's happening in that region, the Islam says, okay, in order to carry out that practice, the young woman at that time has to be spiritually educated, inclined, definitely has to have the physicality of a mature woman, right, in that time, and also has to be intellectually and mentally sane. You see, that was the criteria, because it was a practice, as what Brother Shifu was saying. That was the norm back then. Just like in Asia, they were doing the consent of marriage at 1 to 3 and 8. Do you understand what I'm saying? In Europe, they're doing the same thing. So the Islam brought,
before they even can talk and walk. You're right.
Yeah, they were doing them things. So that's what I was saying before, is that the jurisdiction and clarifying given conditions of carrying out that particular task. Now, the brother's right. However, when we're giving the knowledge, right, we have to be able to be rational and not have subjective feelings towards when we're delivering the message. And that. All I'm saying is, in that time, that's what they were doing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do I believe it should be? Yeah.
But I think what we're going to do then, Kale, unfortunately, we're going to be misguiding our kids if we don't tell them the full extent of what's gone on here. Now, I don't disagree that there are Muslims in the world who practice the Quran in conjunction with hadiths. What I disagree with is that Muhammad had anything to do with any of these hadiths. And Muhammad is supposed to be the reason we have a Quran. It's supposed to be based on his words, not the words of weirdos from Arabia. So all of these weirdos who deal with hadith, I pull them all up, and I've told everyone, if you deal with just Quran, then I can fuck with you like that. But if you're dealing with hadith, as far as I'm concerned, you're walking this treacherous cultural path of Arabia that I don't want nothing to do with, because I know that culturally, for one, Arabians are very racist and heavily racist against black people, just like white people. So same I'd say to a Christian, if you deal with Christianity or you deal with the Most High, I prefer you don't deal with Christianity. I prefer you separate, even if you call yourself a Christian, culturally, I prefer you understand that some of the practices these Christians are dealing with, you shouldn't be dealing with. And until you get to that point, I just don't respect it.
Okay, so yes, I agree with you that they're definitely unethical over there, right? However, we have to be careful of certain practices that they were doing back then, and we're bringing our subjective feelings onto it. So, for example, correct me if I'm wrong, from what I can remember, that the Black Messiah was told to kill babies, right? Have you heard of that verse before? Yeah.
No, when you say the Black Messiah was told to kill babies, by who? Explain that simple.
And who is the Black Messiah?
Jesus,
well, the
Yeshua.
the Black Messiah. Because we gotta codify. You know what I mean? He's not no, you know, European. Look, we know what he looks
Who
like,
told
especially.
him to do that?
So
Yeah,
that's what. So that's what. In the Bible, it mentions that he was told to wipe out the to kill
By
the
who?
babies, etc. By the Most High. That's what the claim is, right? That's what the claim was, that he was told to kill the
hold on,
babies,
that
etc.
Yeshua. Are you talking about Yeshua or are you talking about Moses? Because it sounds like you're talking about Moses.
I'm talking about Yeshua. That was the claim, that he was told to kill babies, etc. Right?
Can you tell us what part of the Bible this happened? I'll be honest with you. I believe you may be conflating Yeshua with Moses.
Let me
Or
get it
maybe
up. Hold
even David.
on. Hold on. Hold on.
I know there is a passage where the Most High tells his people to go into where was it again? The Philistines, to kill off the Philistines.
Oh yeah, to kill. Kill both men and women, infants, nursing babies. In Samuel,
Right, yeah, there you go.
Samuel chapter 15, verse 3, right? Yeah.
We're going back to King David, I'm pretty sure, with that.
To King David. Hold on.
I believe so, but I could be wrong, so like, just double check that.
Okay, destroy the Amalekites. Now, okay, now here's the thing, right? Obviously there's a claim in that. When I hear these things, I say to myself,
one second, though, because you're saying that was ordered of Jesus or Yeshua, yeah. So we've come that, but so that wasn't the case then. Is that correct? It wasn't Jesus that was ordered to do that then, yeah.
I don't think. No, hold on. No, hold on. Destroy that Amalekites.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jesus weren't born yet.
Yeah, because in Samuel and that, I mean, I'm not a Bible person, but that's Old Testament, isn't it? Is it not?
Yeah, Jesus arrived just before the New Testament. You're correct. Or Yeshua, sorry, Yeshua.
Okay, so let me see. It's not saying who. Do you understand what I'm saying in that, right? So I'll take that back, that the Black Messiah. But with that being said, right, I understand if they were commanded to do certain things, well, I'm going to say to myself, okay, at that time, they were commanded to carry out those particular agendas and those particular actions and that, right? I'm not going to do this. Oh, in our time, we couldn't do these things because this and that, and go back to their time. That was their time. Do you understand what I'm saying in that, right? So all I'm saying is, each culture and society would practice certain things. We're just bringing the knowledge to the naive. That's all we're doing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No,
that's all we're doing. Bringing the knowledge,
but
reasoning,
obviously, I can't be naive in this one. In that, all right, then, because obviously, Muhammad was a prophet like Jesus in it. So I mean, we don't want to compare and contrast because it's just not even worth it, innit? But do you know what I mean? I'm just saying, innit? If because it could be argued Jesus' teachings are for all time, innit? You could chat about his things then and now, and they would stand firm. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? The Black
Right.
Messiah. Hands down, we're
Okay,
not
as
gonna take
opposed
that away
to,
from him,
it
of
could be
course.
argued Moses' thing, innit? Especially when it comes to this thing here, for example.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying it was always going to be a stumbling block, because the Most High would have known what I want in the future. You understand what I'm saying to you? And would know that in time to come, this 6-year-old thing with a prophet of all time is obviously going to be problematic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the thing,
This really
the thing is that if each, as I said to you already, each society, culture, society will practice certain
well,
things.
then it
Like,
wasn't.
by the way, I just want to say something. If I made a mistake in that, I'm going to take it back. I'm not in no way assassinating the Black Messiah. Peace be upon him,
No, it
and I
wasn't
got
taken that way,
respect for the
bro.
Black Messiah.
It
So
wasn't. I think it was a
for
genuine
those,
mistake.
you know what I mean, and that, you know what I mean, I apologize, and that I'm not offending the Black Messiah, and that peace be upon him. I got love for him, right? So, and we're free to make mistakes now and then. So I own up to my mistake if it was incorrect, right?
Can I say
So
one thing though, Kel? Yeah, because obviously, when we get to Islam, a lot of people like to conflate Islam and Christianity and Israelites, like they all believe in the same thing. Now, let me explain something to you. Muhammad arrived on planet Earth after Jesus, yeah?
yeah.
Now, when they asked Yeshua to judge a prostitute woman, he said, "He who is without sin cast the first stone," right?
Right.
Therefore, implying that we can't go around judging people based on their sins, because we've sinned too. So therefore, we'd have to judge ourselves. Yeah.
Right.
Now, obviously, as a believer in Yeshua, my real issue with Muhammad is this: Muhammad comes and starts judging people based on their beliefs and based on what they're doing, but can't take the plank out of his own life, like Yeshua told us to do. So therefore, he's going against the teachings and the tenets of the Bible. Then, and once he does that, that's why I'm saying to you, like, what God is this man praying to? Because the God that the Christians are praying to is the God of Israel. That's a fact. We know that. They will tell you that. The God of the Jewish people is the God of Israel. The God of the Israelites is the God of Israel. Where is their God from?
Okay, so my thing is, brother, with all due respect, we're just clarifying in that particular culture practice of what they carry out certain marriages and that, right? So that's what we was talking about. You know, I mean, if you're talking about what God, you know, remember, you see, Muhammad
So 1 second, Kale,
and Yeshua, you know that they're cousins, right? You do understand that, innit, Shifa? They're cousins, right?
Muhammad and Yeshua can't be cousins. That's a lie from the pit of hell, and I could prove it right now.
Okay, so hold on, brother. You gotta let me. Go on, brother. Go on, brother.
Yeah, there's no way.
1 second. Let me try and think, Bobby. 1 second. Sorry, Kale. Did you just say that Muhammad and Jesus are cousins?
They're cousins, yeah. They're cousins.
Okay,
yeah.
I've never heard that, so I would like to hear how you come to that, please.
Can I just give my rendition quickly before you go, brother? Because obviously you might clarify something that changes my opinion. But if I look at the Bible, what I'm going to find is that Muslims try to conflate the Bible to make their book make sense. So they're going to say that Muhammad is a descendant of Ishmael. Yeah? Hell to the no. Listen. Hell to the no. Now, what we have to understand is, first and foremost, Muhammad weren't black. Yeah? That's what we have to understand. Ishmael would have been black as soot, because guess what? His mom's a Cushite and his dad is a black Israelite. So all of these descendants would have been black too. Yeah, and if they weren't black and if they ended up looking like that, it's because they was mixing with the enemy. Now, if he started sleeping with the enemy, his children would have been cast out of the community. They would no longer be identifying as who they are. I get that. And maybe, you know, it could be the result of generational mixing, generation upon generation. Now, you know, the seeds look completely different to what the great grandfather. But then in effect, those people would not be culturally Israelites, bro. Those people would not be culturally of the same practices, and technically they'd be such a distant relative. That would be like saying me and you are cousins.